Maple is ideal for making drum shells because its hardness allows sound to resonate fully. Each of these maple boards will be transformed into one drum shell. The boards are fed to a rip saw, which cuts them to the correct width. This varies depending on the size of drum being made. Then each board goes into a planer, which shaves it thinner. The board is aligned with markings on a saw table. This positions the board to be cut to the correct length. A radial arm saw does the job neatly. Now, each board is sized up in preparation for tapering. They're placed at an angle in a jig. Then the end is moved against a router to taper it. It takes a few passes to get it just right. The taper needs to be about 15 centimeters long. The other end of the board is thinned to the same dimension. These tapered ends will make it easier to bend the wood into a drum shape later. They also act as scarf joints, which will fasten the ends of the boards together when it's bent round. The board needs to be softened, so it's placed in a steam box for about an hour. It's now pliable enough to wind around a hot cylindrical form. Steel banding secures the board to the bending form, where it will spend 10 to 15 minutes. The ends are prized apart, and glue is applied between the tapered tips. Then the shim that was holding the ends apart is removed so they stick together. A wooden guard is placed over the glued joint. This nylon mesh band is a clamp. It's wrapped around the drum shell, and a screw is turned to pull the band tightly around the wood until it reaches 35.5 centimeters in diameter. Then, more than a dozen steel clamps are fastened onto the joint. All these clamps will prevent any gaps from occurring in the joint as the glue sets overnight. With the joint sealed, the drum shell now spins, while a cutter shaves down the edges to make it a true round shell. Another cutter bores into the shell, making a smooth edge and rounding the inside. The drum shell is turned around so it can be cut from another angle. As the shell spins, a high-speed cutter shaves the outside from top to bottom. This makes the surface very smooth. It takes about a week to make a drum shell from solid wood. The laminated drum is an instrument of change. Its sound is crisper than a drum crafted from a single piece of wood. To make one, 11 sheets of maple are layered together. Here the last one is being attached using a special adhesive. This outer layer is made from luxurious bird's eye maple. Rollers press all the layers together to ensure they stick without any gaps. A cut is made through the overlap to create a perfect seam. a robotic drill takes over. It drills holes of various diameters. The small ones will hold hardware. This larger one is an air vent. A computerized router then cuts the bearing edges to a 45-degree angle, and it's sanded smooth. All the edges are checked to see that they're level. If they're not, the drum heads won't fit properly. An adhesive is applied to the air hole and a plastic vent is inserted. Next, brackets called lugs are inserted into the other holes and screwed in. There are 10 lugs spaced 36 degrees apart. They hold the rods that will attach the heads to the drum shell and also enable the drummer to adjust the tension on the heads. A lever is attached to control wires called snares that will be strung across the bottom head. It's called a snare strainer. Then a plastic drum head is fitted over the bottom of the shell. The counter hoop goes on next. It has small tabs which are aligned with each lug. Tension rods are slid into the holes in the tabs. Using a drum key, the head is tightened to an even tension across the shell. Now it's blasted with a heat gun to shrink the plastic and remove any wrinkles. Another plastic head is placed on the top bearing edge. Since this head is the one that gets played, it's twice as thick as the bottom one. The chrome rim is placed on it and the tension rods are tightened. These brass brackets will hold the snare wires. They're slid under the snares that are stretched tightly across a jig, putting one at each end. The length is measured, then the snare wires are soldered to the brackets. The wire is snipped on both ends, and each wire is unlocked from the holding device. When the snares are removed, they're held together by the brackets. A nylon strap is slid into one of the brackets. Then the strap is attached to a fixture just above the bottom head. The other end of the snare is attached to the strainer, the lever that will apply tension and release it, controlling its distinctive buzz. For a bigger sound, there's the bass drum. It's made with wooden hoops. The hoops are attached to the drum shell with steel claws. As the claws are screwed to the hoop, the drum head is pulled just tightly enough to produce that low-pitch bass drum sound. A sound production indeed.